The food service, hospitality, and retail industries are evolving in ways you've never heard of until now. Hosted by global industry technovator Rob Grimes and powered by the IFBTA, TechBytes is your go-to podcast, putting technology innovation and trends on the menu.
Rob Grimes with TechBytes, and today I have a special conversation guest, and as you know, these conversations, who knows how they're going to go, but the reason why I would say special is because I'm being joined today by Sarika Attal, who is the Vice President of Enterprise Technology Services and Store Platforms for Papa John's. So welcome to TechBytes.
Thank you, Rob. I am very happy to be here and excited to have this conversation with you today.
Well, listen, you've been out there and we may have crossed paths a couple of times, but also with Papa John's, you're not exactly new to Papa John's, are you?
It's only been 17 years. Not a big deal.
And I suspect that while pizza might not have changed for 17 years, I bet the technologies around it have.
It has changed dramatically. I mean, one of the reasons I've been here for such a long time is not a single day has been boring. I started as a web developer back in 2007 and came from a team of 6,000 engineers to a team of six. And when I joined, I thought, oh, it's just pizza. How complex can it be?
Oh, really?
Because I was coming from a airplane part modeling company, so a software that makes complex 3D modeling, to pizza and a very lean team. So I thought this is going to be easy. I'll be bored, and in 6 months I'll join fintech because that's what was hot at that time. And every
But
single
web
day.
development, like what kind of web development? What are we talking about here?
Um, so if you remember the first, well, of course, Papa John's has had several digital firsts, including the first online ordering platform. But when I joined, the first black and white mobile website, I had written the code for that for Papa John's, as well as SMS based ordering, where you could order your favorites.
Were you doing that as a consultant to Papa John's and that's how you ended up in the industry? Was the web development you were doing before you joined them? Were they a client or how did you make that transition from automotive or airplane parts into pizza and.
Yes, it's part of my personal journey as well. I was an engineer back in India, and when I got married to my husband, we moved to Louisville, Kentucky, and I found this job with Papa John's initially as a consultant. And tech talent is
I
always in
get that.
demand. So, but within 6 months, I was asked to join as an FTE, a full-time employee, and I was asked to lead projects and lead, website redesign and
And
art.
I can guess since you were in Louisville that you probably like pizza better than chicken.
I do. I
There
do.
you go.
It's the best pizza ever.
All right, so there you go. Well, you can get chicken on a pizza too, right? So,
Hmm.
and it depends. Pizza has different tastes in different parts of the world. I've had pizza in India, so there's all kinds of different tastes and different ways there. So, you make this journey, and you actually probably did that at a really good time because when you start thinking about that digital, I don't want to use the word digital transformation because to me that's like a newer term here. But you were in the early parts. But I will tell you that. 1 year at FS Tech, and I don't remember what year it was, I actually gave an award. We used to give out industry awards, and I gave an award for innovation, but we couldn't decide. And I know you just said that Papa John's was the first. We couldn't decide which of the big three pizza companies should get it. We decided as a category. And so we had the Domino's, Papa John's, and Pizza Hut CIOs all on the stage at the same time because really all innovation and delivery and taking orders on the phone and and we'll get back into where web comes into this whole thing. But they really led innovation. So we gave the big three an award together on the stage to recognize that they were really leading the way in new tech.
I've learned something new today. This is incredible.
Well, so I have a history with FS Tech. So that's why I might have been giving that particular award at that time. And some of those people, by the way, Chris Demery, they're still in the industry, out there just in different pizzas. That's good, different places. However, I've always believed that pizzas led the way. So let's talk about that web development for a second, and what you were doing, because I sort of get this a little bit, because pizza is sort of a difficult kind of thing. That's why the pizza companies developed their own, because you can slice and dice a pizza into many different things and do toppings here and toppings there. And then you have it was all phone in orders when people really weren't doing the phone in and things like that. So I could imagine visually, if you could figure out where it was airplane parts, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if you can figure out what airplane parts are going to look like on the web to do ordering, if that's what you were doing, I guess you could say, how many different ways can you make a pizza?
Yes, in millions, basically. And I think that's the beauty, and everything comes around that from a complexity perspective, and why people choose to order digitally is they are very particular about what build they want, and then the house is divided sometimes half and half specialties. So we have to support all of those customizations and make sure the order is accurately built and served to the customer.
Well, I think you have in your particular role, because if you're dealing with the store technology and enterprise, and of course enterprise, like across the enterprise types of technologies that are here, you also have that added layer and factor that you've got a lot of franchisees in a lot of countries that you do business in as well.
Yes, it's a very heavily franchise based model for sure.
So, what are the challenges, or how do not necessarily, I'm asking you really more your perspective, not necessarily about Papa John's, but when you're dealing with so literally, is there actually a number of how many combinations in today's world you could get on a pizza? Have you ever figured that out?
I will have to dig that number up, but I know it is in millions
Well,
because
I'm
of
sure
how
that
much
is.
customization we see.
So, if we think of the retail industry where they do like, size, color, style, and those permutations of that, because you were an engineer, so I can talk to you
Yes.
about this. Um, if you
And,
think about
and
the
here it is, crust size, crust type, crust flavoring, toppings, sauces, well
exactly.
done,
See, now I
baked.
wouldn't have thought about the crusty side of this conversation. I wouldn't have thought of that at all. Actually, I would not have thought about that. And then the combinations of things that now come along with the pizza that they serve, right? And then you multiply that by regional tastes, international tastes, different types of ingredients that are found in different places. And I don't know what those combinations now come out to be.
Yeah. I remember the first time we launched the animated pizza builder where the toppings would fall on the crust. I mean, customers loved that, loved seeing that built real time.
Well, today you can do, I guess, the pizza cam. I've got a friend right across the parking lot. He's got 9 pizza restaurants, and I can track my pizza and stuff in there. And he's got interesting technology, but they're certainly not doing that. So, what's like the latest, and what gets you excited about the future and what's coming up in tech, not just in pizza, but in the restaurant industry or food service? Is there something that you're really viewing as the future?
Yeah, I think there is again not a single day to be bored. Basically, there are such exciting problems to solve. When it comes to consumer expectations, continue to increase day by day. The amount of transparency they want, amount of customization and real time updates, personalization that is expected, and there's a lot of overlap between their retail experience versus a restaurant ordering experience. So those the bar keeps getting higher. In addition to that, the labor challenges are not going anywhere. They continue to become harder. And how do we introduce automation? How do we make our store team members lives easier, and make the frontline worker job easier by the day as they're serving the customer. And then when you look at the back of house, the real time inventory management, forecasting from a demand perspective, as well as reporting, there is so much data democratization um, over the years recently that People expect their reports to be up to date and have more meaningful integrations between two different data sets. And then pricing intelligence in terms of, you mentioned all the combinations of the pizzas and the markets and the franchisees. So, that intelligence around pricing capabilities, pricing architecture is another piece that is, exciting to solve. And then I would add the new restaurant opening, that whole technology ecosystem, whether it's finding the right markets and optimizing for the new bills and making that new restaurant opening process a seamless and fast process. All of these areas are just, there's a lot to solve for.
Well, let me ask you this. What is your definition of technology?
Technology is anything that makes your consumers, and whether it's pizza eating consumers for me here, and the restaurant team members, lives easier. That's what technology is here for.
So I've been challenged on that in the last week and a half. So last week I went to NAFEM, the North American Food Service Equipment Manufacturer Show. Happens every 2 years, and I saw and I've seen this before because we had this at NRF, and we'll come to that. But the Pizza Bot from Middleby, which is being used by Walmart to make pizzas, behind the scenes, although they're starting to get together. But I also saw at NAFEM the pizza vending machine where they were putting in fresh pizzas that were being cooked in the machine with toppings and things like that on it. And because it's equipment, so I start tying in the technology of equipment because of the ecosystem in a store, right?
Yep.
And which may maybe give us more types of units in the future. The Papa John's pizza vending machine, because I've seen them in Hyatt, not Papa John's, but I've seen pizza in Hyatts. So at night, people can get a pizza that's made. But the other part is yesterday I was at Expo West, the natural food show. Huge. Who knew? How big that was. But now you have all your genetically engineered foods as well as your plant-based foods as well as your natural. I don't know what that's going to mean when I go over to the Impossible booth and I'm eating steak bites and they've got the pepperonis and they got everything that's there. That's going to change. Also, it's technology somehow in here, agri-technology, right?
Yeah.
That's going to change how you do your business. It's going to make it even worse because there's a lot more choices, or maybe there'll be less. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there is, I can see, demand penetration from a, beyond meat type perspective or gluten free, that already exists, and different dietary preferences, coming in as another level of consumer expectation for sure.
Well, there is, and I suppose, how do you deal with the challenges? You mentioned technology should make it easier for the workforce. So you already used one of those ding 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 words that are going to be like this year, which was the personalization. And by the way, nobody's going to personalize things more than a pizza. So I get that one. Okay, so personalization is one of the keywords I keep hearing, but frictionless is the other one, which seems to be the term now for dealing with employees, dealing with customers, and things. So, how do you stay on top of both the employee and the consumer demands and how they want to use and integrate and react with technology when you layer on top of it that pizza is probably one of the things that has all six generations that are out there right now eating it?
Yes, yes. I love your question, by the way. I think, the way to stay on top of it is, of course, you can't have a tech conversation without using the word AI. So I'm going to go
I
ahead and
didn't
use
use it.
it.
You brought that up. I did not bring up the word AI, and I wasn't planning to bring it up. But you're on.
But that is how we are trying to keep up, using AI to make the team members jobs easier. And it doesn't, it can be in an assistant fashion in various roles across the organization, or it is to personalize that experience. And it doesn't have to be the traditional definition of machine learning for personalization, it could simply be gathering insights on what are the most common consumer journeys that we should make this experience frictionless for, and how do we assist on the other side of it, making of the pizza, making sure the order is accurate, and the estimated quote time that we are telling the customers the pizza is going to be ready by this time. How do we improve accuracy of that? So there are several ways to optimize these use cases, and definitely trying to use AI to stay on top of it.
Well, I think you've got, as we start to think about this, those permutations and everything else that's there, the number of units, you've got an awful lot of data that you got to shift through. So as you talk about not only the personalization of marketing data of how to personalize for the guest experience, whoever they are, the way people order, you have to really do it in many different ways, including still doing voice, in there.
Yes.
So if we take a look at that, we had on this podcast a few months ago the CIO of Bojangles, and we were talking about how they were using voice AI in the drive-through, but a real voice that made it people were comfortable with it. Bojangles. So you, of all companies, take a lot of orders over the phone, I'm sure, still today.
Yes.
So does technology come in there to start to automate the call centers, not behind the scenes, but actually the user experience talking directly to and ordering that way?
Very much. And, I've actually personally led some of those initiatives for Papa John's. And, the first step was starting the consumer demographic. Who are the customers calling us on the phone, and what are they seeking? They are a different cohort than, the ordering from the web or mobile app or aggregators, DoorDash and others. Um, and trying to understand what are they seeking and optimizing the experience for that, and introducing AI to automate part of the call flows. Initially, we started with simple order status automation. For example, if you have ordered in the last 30 minutes, you're automatically going to get an order status. Believe me, there are a lot of calls about
But
that.
do I place my order? Well, I'm sure.
Where's my order?
Yeah, actually, I'm sure. But because of connected mapping and things like that, and knowing where it is, you actually can give them hopefully accurate information.
Yes, we can, and then we added automation into collecting the most painful process of collecting address information on the phone. So using our customer data, we know the customer who's calling, and making that seamless. And then the hardest part is actually building the pizza and the cart, and a full end-to-end automation has also been implemented in several restaurants.
Well, let's take a break for a minute because I do want to actually talk about how what you're doing actually impacts so many other industries and areas of our industry that people may not be thinking of beyond 10 different types of crust, which I wasn't thinking about. So we're going to take a break and we're going to come back with Sarika Attal, who is the Vice President of Enterprise Technology Services and Store Platforms for Papa John's.
With the rapid expansion of technology in the food and beverage industries, finding the right supplier can become overwhelming and complicated. To simplify this process, the IFBTA created Exchange. Exchange is a powerful search tool where users can easily narrow down their technology search and refine results by application type, geography served, department, and more. Browse resources and learn more about the industry's technology suppliers at exchange.ifbta.org. Now, back to the show.
So we are back, and I'm having a conversation today with Sarika Attal, the Vice President of Enterprise Technology Services and Store Platforms for Papa John's. And we were talking about that word AI, about how it integrates, but how it can help people with the choice and giving them information, especially in a business like theirs where people are like watching the clock. So I started to think about this a little bit. And we talked in the first half, I mentioned that we gave an award to the pizza people for being out there. So now I start to think about what did pizza do that really led the rest of the way and maybe is doing today that others follow that we can learn from and maybe get a vision of where that future is. So, obviously, in the early days, all of the delivery and mapping was done, but I'm going to guess today that some of the big delivery groups and the Amazons and people that probably have it down, and we're probably learning from them. Just like in drive-through, I think retail's learning from drive-through from the QSR industry. So I think we can get that. But you mentioned something earlier. The example that people always use is they talk about throttling and they talk about the pizza. They talk about the Super Bowl and pizza, and that kind of technology still. Now I know you had that. Well, it was airline parts. You didn't say passengers, but it was parts. But you know we I think the pizza industry is probably still ahead of the game as you think about how you take all of these orders at certain events and how do you handle them and still give people great customer satisfaction and a great experience without taking away, from what they're doing at the time. Would I be
Yes.
right there? I mean, is that a lot of the innovation that still is occurring in your industry?
Yes, you hit the nail on the head. I think with being on the forefront as a digital player, the pizza industry has always focused on initially it was how do we continue to increase the digital mix, and with Papa John's, and especially if you include the call center in centralized phone orders as well, like it goes up to 90% basically. So the focus becomes fulfillment of these orders, and these orders are coming in from various channels, whether it's our own website, mobile apps, digital call center, or aggregators. How do you serve these orders, and which one goes first in line, and when the customer is about to pick them up, and the different delivery methods. So I think
Which one goes
optimizing
first
the
in line for what?
depending on, there are plan ahead orders that are
Oh, for
also.
production, first in line.
Yes, yes.
Well, but there's a lot of I mean, I'm sure that you have automation and you have robotics and things. If you don't, you're putting it in there, as far as you do production things. So you actually have a lot of moving parts and pieces that also have to integrate and work together.
Yes, absolutely. And like, to adding to that complexity, every order it's made to order. So it's customized, and with all those combinations. So it's very important for that whole fulfillment process to work correctly when it comes to which order, which customer, what the make was, and where in the queue they were.
And to your point, it is customized, but of all of our industry, it really is a production line. It's a factory of sorts in there. And it's also extremely important for consistency. And, one of the devices I saw this past week was a camera that was actually slicing pepperoni, but placing it exactly the right number of pepperonis in the right space. And it's really a science because people have a visual expectation when they open up that
Yes,
box of what they're going to see as well. And you can't have everything, pushed over on one side. I mean,
yes.
it's got to, if your eye is good, if you're an artist or a web designer, if your eye is good at this, you're probably going to be sensing when things are off balance on that pizza.
Yes, absolutely. The visual representation, the temperature, the readiness, all of that matters.
And you're right. Of all things, the temperature, the visual, uh,
The
it,
accuracy.
it all fits together, and then burning your mouth, that's the other piece of it that probably gets in there as well. So all right, so we know about delivery systems and mapping. Probably there's now some people, but they learn the way. We talk about throttling and how to handle large volume, the integration of equipment that's out there. But as I think about it, so have you ever been to NACS, the National Association of Convenience Store show?
I have not been there yet.
Okay, so you need to go, and I'll tell you why you need to go. There's some interesting places to go, by the way. Airports are an interesting one. They've got a show. Everybody's got a show. But NACS, so it's all the convenience stores. And this is what I tell people. If you go to NACS, there's like 4 to 5 things that you're getting at NACS. Hot dogs on a roller, beef jerky, 24-hour shots, pizza, and fried chicken. You go to this show, that is what you see. Now, you just heard me say the word pizza because we all recognize that in convenience stores, that pizza is probably one of the top sellers.
Yes.
And I'm going to guess that Papa John's has some partnerships in the pizza industry, in the C-store industry as well.
Yes. Yes.
So you went for the first time to NRF this year, the National Retail Federation show. Now, what did you think about that?
I think there is a lot to learn from the retail industry for QSR. I was amazed by the size of NRF, first of all.
It's a
Um,
huge technology show.
yeah, it's massive, and the again, I'm going to use the word AI. I'm sorry, but the application of agentic AI by several retailers, I was inspired by that, and immediately I came back to see how can I help my own team members actually using this technology. There was a lot of RFID based innovation, excuse me, and we have Papa John's has a vertically integrated supply chain, so that definitely lit up some bulbs for me in terms of how do we apply this for Papa John's inventory management as well. And the
Were there
other
was
thing.
there something that you saw there that you didn't expect to see, but was really a surprise? I mean, you keep on top of what's going on in tech in the industry. So, was there something that just really, oh my gosh, that's really cool and comes from retail?
I think it was less of a surprise and more of a depth and breadth that I discovered, which was, I did not know that just by sitting here in my office and reading articles.
Well, it's interesting how people don't get out in our industry sometimes, unless they've crossed industries in there. And a lot of people don't know that NRF exists. That's why the IFBTA does its thing there with the Food Service Innovation Zone. But there's a lot to be learned from retail, and retail, learns an awful lot from food service. But if you want to think about it, I think that having said what I said a few minutes ago, I think that pizza happens to be one of those industries that actually is helping to bring the retail industry and food service together
Yes, yes, I can see
because
a
it's
great,
freshly made.
yeah, it's a
I
great
mean,
intersection.
you can get hot dogs in a package and put them on the rollers. You don't have to be, you know, and even the burgers. I just think that of all the things that if there's any one thing that is freshly prepared, or at least that's what they say, in a C store, it's going to be the pizza.
Yeah, and it's a very shareable occasion, basically.
So there's probably technologies that you can get from them and that they can get from you. I think my other observation at a show like NRF is that you get the opportunity to also trade notes with the international community. It's there, and we take a look at a lot of systems that we don't see at a lot of the industry shows, our
Yeah.
industry shows.
Yeah, I think even on the e-commerce side, there were a lot of tools that, I didn't explore in the past that I got exposure to at NRF for sure.
Yeah, and certainly if you think about e-commerce, who leads the way there? Maybe not pizza e-commerce, but who leads the way? Retail in there, but they're stealing too. I when I see Instacart showing up in a food service area, and it isn't DoorDash, Uber Eats, or those guys, out there. That's telling me now the grocery guys are getting into the restaurant side. So
Yes.
what are we doing, right? So
It's
you can't just stay home.
the lines are starting to blur in between all these different segments of the industry for sure.
Well, it's certainly good that you got out. So, just sort of talking about that, um, if we think about trends in other segments of the industry, QSR, fast casual, um, what are the trends that you see, or you are happen to be in a location where some of the largest restaurant companies in the world are headquartered. So, what do you compare notes, or what from your view, what do you see as happening in other ends of the industry?
Yeah, I think the ones I covered a lot of, the consumer facing side, personalization, the in-store ecosystem, the four-wall technology as we speak, and all the reporting back of house, and that new attention to pricing tools, and new store opening, new market analysis. So I think those are pretty generic, and also like very applicable to the pizza side. What I didn't talk about earlier is, that's not much applicable to pizza, at least to my knowledge, is drive-through tech is also on a boom, from what I'm observing. As well as for the non-QSR, basically fast casual, dine-in table management and optimizing all of that.
No QR codes.
No QR codes.
I think they're dead. But I will tell you that hot and cold lockers, which would apply for you, I think that's rather interesting to me because now you may end up with a look pizza. Everybody go pizza delivery, and you see a drone, right? You
Yes.
know, I have my opinion about that. Okay. You probably have your opinion about that. I'm probably more in the drone kind of autonomous types of vehicles that are delivering more land based than by air. But I get it that a pizza box is light. You can get it on there, and it gets a lot of press attention that's out there. But the lockers enable our industry to deliver to a halfway point and have people pick up, and or in an office building. And so I could see that. I think the lockers probably work very well for pizza. Uh, well, they may not meet all the standards, but they do well to keep something hot as a pickup point.
Yeah, I think there have been some tests, and especially in university locations where,
Absolutely.
the audience setup and the logistics are perfect for a locker technology for sure.
Well, office buildings, universities, but you know, every time I go into a 7-Eleven and I see lockers there for Amazon pickup, I think just make those hot and cold lockers because even the 7-Elevens are now doing partnerships with restaurants. They're not doing it all themselves, and they
Yeah.
make it a central delivery or pickup point. And so that's the opportunity, there, to do that. So I think you get that. Well, listen, it's a great conversation. There's so many things that we could talk about. We should talk about. I have a feeling I'll see you on the road somewhere. We've got as the IFBTA, I think 8 events we're going to in the month of March, and it's already started. So I've hit 2,
Wow.
but there's 5 in 1 week or 4 in 1 week in Las Vegas. 3 weeks from now, but next week's Murtec, and but you get to see retail and everything all at once. But with over 1 million combinations, what's your favorite pizza?
Spinach Alfredo with tomato on a thin crust.
I would not have thought about that. I
And by
would
the
not.
way, that's what I order every Valentine's Day as well, in a heart shape.
You guys make heart shaped pizzas?
Yes, it's a huge day for us, Valentine's.
Really? Oh, now I got something new I've got to do. Now I got to think about what the answer would be there. But so wait a minute. Are you ordering it or is your husband ordering it for you?
That is a good question. This is a trick question, I feel, but I'm ordering it.
You're ordering it, but it's your favorite pizza.
Yes,
I'll
you
have
gotta
to try
try
that.
it.
Huh?
You have to try it.
Well, I
Thin
hadn't thought
crust.
about spinach on a pizza.
Yeah, spinach Alfredo sauce.
Spinach Alfredo. Well, I wouldn't have thought about the sauce either. I could have thought about the, maybe putting Parmesan cheese on top of it on the cheese. But, I think that's I'm going to think about that one. That actually could work. But
And remember the thin crust.
the thin crust, we will do that as well. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure and fun to get to speak with you today and have this conversation. Not just the perspectives on the pizza thing, but maybe perspectives coming from a airplane parts web developer who figured out how to develop the digital strategies within Papa John's, and we'll be interested to see where that goes. So it's been great to have you with us, and we've been having this conversation. with Sarika Attal, the Vice President of Enterprise Technology, Services, and Store Platforms for Papa John's. And I'm going to look forward to having what am I having? A thin crust spinach, fettuccine.
Alfredo.
Fettuccine. That sounds like a coffee, right? Alfredo pizza with you sometime and find out what that's about, and we'll do that one in person. But thank you for joining us on TechBytes.
You're welcome in advance for the tastiest pizza ever.
There you go. Thank you.
Have a good one.
This podcast is brought to you by the International Food and Beverage Technology Association. The IFBTA is the industry's voice of food service, hospitality, and retail technology, providing thought leadership as your single, impartial, and go-to resource. The IFBTA offers in-person and online communities to connect with your peers, the exchange, an all-encompassing global technology resource, and an industry-wide professional education and certification program. The bottom line is the IFBTA is your place to gather, learn, and share in conversations like the one we're having today. Thank you for joining us on this episode of TechBytes, powered by the IFBTA. I'm Rob Grimes, your host, and I look forward to taking our next bite of technology together.